In the early morning at Qiyuan Sutra Society, there was a scene of tranquility and harmony, with the cool air mingled with the fresh fragrance of lotus flowers. However, this tranquil atmosphere failed to soothe Frona's mind. He sat not far away, his brows slightly furrowed, gazing at the Buddha with a complex expression, his mind rippling like waves on a pond. Frona, having studied the scriptures extensively from a young age, excelled without hindrance and was renowned as the foremost in expounding the Dharma due to her wide-ranging propagation of the teachings. Even with such wisdom, deep within his heart lay a knot that could not be undone. This is not a difficult point from any scripture, nor is it about winning or losing a debate. Rather, it is a fundamental question that has puzzled him for many years. All phenomena are without birth and without cessation, so why then does the cycle of the six realms continue endlessly? This question is like an invisible shackle, binding his heart and preventing him from fully understanding the true essence of the Dharma. He repeatedly sought answers from the scriptures, but found that the words seemed only to describe phenomena, without directly pointing to the ultimate truth. Today, he finally mustered the courage to directly ask the Buddha about the doubts that had troubled him for many years. The disciples around had quietly gathered, holding their breath in silence, as if they too were awaiting this extraordinary dialogue. Frona tidied his robes, slowly rose, respectfully joined his hands in Anjali Mudra, and paid homage to the Buddha. His voice carried a hint of hesitation, yet also revealed a certain longing. World-honored one, disciple has a matter not understood, and wishes to respectfully seek your enlightened guidance. The Buddha gently nodded, signaling him to continue speaking. Frona slightly bowed his head and said, "You once taught us that all phenomena are originally without birth or death, and all appearances are empty. But why do we witness the continuous cycle of birth and death within the six realms of samsara, with sentient beings endlessly revolving in it, seemingly without cessation? If the truth is that there is no birth and death, then where does the appearance of samsara arise from? If the six realms truly exist, then how can the concept of no birth and no death be established?" His voice trembled slightly as he continued, "World-honored one, I am dull-witted, yet I am unwilling to remain at the superficial level. If the six realms are merely illusions, why do they appear so vividly real? If birthlessness and deathlessness are fundamental, why do we still experience the endless suffering of samsara?" The disciple is filled with fear and apprehension, worried that he may not truly comprehend the Dharma nor genuinely benefit all sentient beings. At this point, Florian's voice gradually grew softer. He lifted his head, his eyes filled with anticipation and longing. "The Blessed One, you have taught us that the wisdom of truth is like the water in a lotus pond, reflecting all things. What the disciple perceives are merely layers of ripples, unable to glimpse the true nature of the water. I earnestly seek the guidance of the world-honored one, so that this disciple may clearly comprehend the true meaning within." The Buddha listened quietly, his expression unchanged as before, a gentle breeze brushing his lowered brows, carrying a profound serenity. He did not answer directly, but cast a furious glare at the lotus pond and gently said, "Pravahana, look at the water before you, its waves rising and falling, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent. Tell me, where do these waves arise from, and where do they cease?" Following the Buddha's guidance, Frona gazed upon the lotus pond before her. The pond's water rippled gently under the breeze, as the lotus ripples continuously expanded, softly shaking the surrounding lotus leaves and their reflections. He gazed for a moment and replied, "Bhagwan, these water waves arise because of the wind. When the wind stops, they cease. The arising and ceasing of the waves are both due to external causes." The Buddha smiled gently and nodded, saying, "Well said, the wind is the condition for the manifestation of water waves. But look again, although these waves rise and fall unpredictably, Have they ever left the surface of the water? Tell me, are these waves truly water or not water? The practitioner was fully present, carefully observing the ripples before him, and realized that no matter how tumultuous the waves were, they never left the surface of the water. The arising and ceasing of ripples are merely appearances. Their essence remains water. He took a deep breath and replied, "World-honored one, waves are nothing but water. Without water, there can be no waves." The Buddha nodded gently and continued with kindness. "You are right. The waves appear to rise and fall endlessly, yet their essence never leaves the water. The form of the waves changes endlessly, yet the nature of water remains unchanged. The arising and ceasing of waves are manifestations of dependent origination, while the water itself remains ever calm and unmoving." So, you say when the water in this pond moves because of the waves, has its essence truly moved? Frona fell into contemplation, his gaze fixed intently on the surface of the pond, the ripples seeming to reveal some hidden truth. He replied softly, "World-honored one, although the water waves move, the intrinsic nature of the water itself remains unmoved. These waves are merely temporary phenomena, while the water itself remains unchanged." The Buddha's gaze was peaceful and profound, continuing to inspire the understanding that waves appear real but have no independent existence. It depends on the wind, depends on the water, and relies on countless conditions to manifest. Without wind and causes, waves cease to exist. Water remains unmoved regardless of the rise of the wind or the cessation of the sound of waves. Upon hearing this, Frona felt a surge of waves in his mind. He looked up at the Buddha and asked with some confusion, "Bhagwan, are you saying that the cessation of the sound of these water ripples is like the cycle of the 6 realms of Samsara, that they are merely manifestations of dependent origination and not truly existent?" The Buddha smiled gently and nodded. "Well said. Indeed, the cycle of the 6 realms is like these ripples on the water. They appear to be ceaseless and continuous on the surface, yet they are merely manifestations stirred by the winds of delusory thoughts. They have never truly arisen nor genuinely ceased. Sentient beings, clinging to the image of the water's ripple, forget the true nature of water itself, just as they cling to the cycle of birth and death in samsara, yet fail to understand the ultimate reality of non-arising and non-ceasing." A glimmer of insight flashed in Philona's eyes, yet doubts still lingered in his heart. He looked at the pond water and asked softly, "O Shakyamuni, since the waves are merely manifestations, and their arising and ceasing do not depart from the water, why then do they appear so vividly real to people, with their continual rise and fall?" The Buddha gazed at him and gently replied, "That is because your eyes are clouded by defilements, and your mind is drawn by the waves. If you can understand that water has no movement or stillness, and waves vanish without a sound, the truth of all this will be revealed." After speaking, he quietly gazed toward the curtained pond. A gentle breeze passed by, and the ripples on the water continued to softly ripple. At Full Moon Tower, he lowered his head to gaze once more at the pond water, and his mind gradually grew serene. He seems to have already begun to touch that truth, the unchanging essence like water. He suddenly understood that birth and death are merely appearances, while the essential true reality remains ever unchanged and unperturbed. The Buddha raised his hand, pointing to the surface of the lotus pond, and said, "Ananda, you are observing the scene in the pond. Although the water ripples, does it not reflect many inverted images? Tell me, is the bird flying in the water truly a real bird, or merely an illusion?" Following the Buddha's guidance, the Buddha's gaze rested on the water in the pond. Several birds swiftly passed across the horizon, their images reflected in the pond's water. The reflections gently swayed with the ripples, appearing indistinguishable from the birds flying in the sky. After careful observation, he replied, "World-honored one, the flying bird in the water is merely a reflection. It is not a real entity." The Buddha nodded slightly and continued to ask, "Do you know where these reflections come from and where they will go?" The Buddha pondered for a moment and replied, "The reflection appears because of the bird flying in the sky. When the bird flies away, the reflection disappears. It never truly existed." The Buddha smiled with satisfaction and further said, "Well said. Upon observation, this reflected image arises dependent on causes and conditions, and ceases dependent on causes and conditions. It appears clear and distinct, yet it has never truly existed. The phenomena of the 6 realms of samsara are no different from a reflection. They arise due to causes and conditions. Yet sentient beings mistakenly believe them to be real and cling to them, thinking that they must undergo birth and death within them." Upon hearing this, Frona felt a sudden stir in his heart, and a trace of deep contemplation appeared in his eyes. He whispered softly, "Shakyamuni, the cycle of the 6 realms is like a reflection. It appears clear and visible, but is actually illusory and unreal. Although these reflections are not real, they always have an originating cause. What then is the root cause of the cycle of the 6 realms of existence?" The Buddha looked at him with benevolence and gently spoke, "As birds fly by, their reflections appear. When forgetfulness arises, the cycle of rebirth is born. Have you ever seen a reflection that truly has come or gone? Similarly, the cycle of the 6 realms of rebirth arises due to forgetfulness. It has never truly been born, nor has it ever truly ceased to exist. Sentient beings, driven by desire, mistake the false for the true and become immersed in illusions." The Buddha was momentarily stunned. Once again, he lowered his head to gaze at the reflection in the water, striving to grasp its reality. Yet he found that the reflection swayed with the ripples of the waves, its form constantly shifting, making it utterly impossible to capture its true essence. He whispered gently, "World-honored one, this reflection undulates with the ripples of the water and indeed cannot be fixed. It is merely a temporary apparition, an illusory shadow that cannot be grasped." The Buddha smiled gently and continued, "Indeed, it is so. Although the cycle of the 6 realms arises due to causes and conditions, it inherently lacks self-nature and is a delusory projection of false thoughts. Just like the reflection in the water clearly shows the image of a flying bird, yet no real bird has ever come or gone. The shadow of the way arises dependent on conditions. When the bird flies away, the shadow naturally disperses. Similarly, the 6 realms exist conditionally. When false thoughts cease, the cycle of samsara no longer persists." Hearing this, the Buddha's heart bloomed like a lotus flower. He instantly realized the truth and, joining his hands in reverence, said, "World-honored one, your disciple finally understands. Ultimate reality is neither born nor destroyed, neither coming nor going, while the cycle of the 6 realms of samsara is an illusion manifested by delusory thoughts. Sentient beings cling to the truth or falsity of samsara precisely because they have not penetrated the conditionality of delusory thoughts." The Buddha, with his gentle yet profound understanding, taught that what is called reality and illusion are not opposites. Illusion is inherently inseparable from reality. Just as ripples move on the surface of water but cannot separate from the water itself, if sentient beings can see through illusions and understand their true nature, they will gain clear insight. This illusion has never altered the true reality, nor has it ever hindered sentient beings from attaining liberation. After hearing this, Florina's mind became extraordinarily clear. He gazed at the ripples on the lotus pond, as if each petal was reminding him that all phenomena are illusory, and only the unchanging true nature is the ultimate peace. He again affirms, "Blessed one, I have perceived the relationship between ultimate reality and illusory appearances as you have taught. When delusory thoughts cease and illusory forms vanish, the true nature, soundless and unchanging, has always been right before our eyes." The Buddha nodded with satisfaction and slowly said, "Well done, well done. The suffering of sentient beings arises because they regard cessation of affliction as true and arising as real. If one can understand that the true nature is neither birth nor death, then the cycle of the 6 realms of samsara is merely an illusion of deluded thoughts. Awakening to the present moment brings an end to reincarnation, and birth and death become empty. A gentle breeze once again swept across the lotus pond, causing the ripples on the water to dance softly. Yet in Fu Luana's heart, there was no longer any stirring. What he perceived was not the undulations of the lotus leaves, but the eternal, unchanging nature of the water. He respectfully kowtowed and silently made a vow to spread this truth to more lost sentient beings, so that they too may see through illusions, directly perceive ultimate reality, and be liberated from samsara to attain ultimate peace.